Hey everybody, this is my 55-gallon Gourami tank, and I need to get in here and do a little bit of maintenance to it. You might be able to tell that the surface skimmer is sucking air, it's blowing bubbles and making noises, so I need to get in there and just do a little bit of maintenance, do a water change. There's a few pieces of vegetation in there that need to be trimmed out, etc. But my real concern is my outbreak of guppies. I've got more baby guppies than I know what to do with in this tank. You can see the bubbles going crazy on my spray bar back there, so I'm really sucking a lot of air in and really need to get in there and do something about that. It's driving me nuts. But I also need to get rid of all of these baby guppies, and there's Mom, there's the culprit right there. She's just dumping the babies everywhere, and if my understanding is correct, that can go on for months and months, that she can actually hold on to sperm and then have a whole new batch of babies pretty much whenever she feels conditions are right, for months and months. So having a single female guppy in your tank is no guarantee that you will not continually sprout baby guppies. So I've got, I don't know, 30 or 40 of them in here at least, probably. They're everywhere. So I do have a solution, other than the obvious of getting in there with a net and trying to collect them all out. So I'm going to get working on the tank, and I'm going to think about my options. There might be the simple get in there with a net option, but I do have another idea in mind, and I'm going to wait and see if that plays out. I've also got a sick gold gourami in here. She's got a swim bladder infection or something, and she floats like a cork. She's in the back. She's up in the top behind the spray bar. She's up near where the surface skimmer is actually, although she's not the reason it's doing that. I've looked in there. There's some vegetation and stuff sort of caught in it, and that's where we're getting the air sucking in. So while I'm doing the water change, if I can get to her easily enough, I might pull her out today and just go ahead and euthanize her. Oh, there she is right there. She's trying to swim. See? She floats like a cork. She can't get off of the surface. I mean, at all. She can't even get away from the surface for a moment. So she's been like this for quite a while. It's pretty distressful watching her. I've had people suggest me feeding her shelled peas, and that's a great thought, except the shelled peas sink, and there's no way for her to eat them because she can't get off of the surface. So I've been feeding Daphnia and spirulina, which floats, and both are good for constipation, although I don't know what they will do for any other condition that she might be suffering from. Again, I just keep saying there's not a lot I can do. If it doesn't sort itself out, then she's probably a goner. And by the look of it, I don't think it's going to sort itself out. Looking at her vent, it was all sort of red and swollen and distended, so she's not moving anything naturally, and I don't know what there is I can do about it. So again, if I can get her out of there easily today, I may remove her and euthanize her. I may just let nature take its course. I'm not sure just yet. So sit tight, let me get started. Don't really know what the end of this video is going to be like. It's largely going to depend on what I do once I get in there. But there's your before. And there's your after. So nothing major. As I said, I got in there and I cleaned out the floating surface skimmer. I scrubbed that out a little bit. Just over time, gunk gets caught in the little grooves that the water is supposed to flow through, and it stops flowing through and it starts flowing over the top. And when it flows over the top, it actually creates a little opening in the middle where air sucks down, and that's why you get the air being drawn in on those surface skimmers, even though it doesn't appear sometimes that there's anything clogging it up. So I got in there, I pulled that out, I used my little scrub brush and scrubbed all the gunk out of it and got it all opened up, and it's working just fine now. I also got in and took some of the water Sprite on the left. I know it's kind of pointless, but there was a few fronds that had a lot of cyanobacteria growing on them. It was sort of green and thick, and I cut those off. I turned it around so some of the longer fronds, instead of growing up and out the top as they were in the back, now sort of grow into the tank. And that'll give us a little more to look at. You can see I've still got all my little baby guppies in there, so I did not get in there with the net, but I don't know if you've noticed by now, I have come up with a solution for them. They're all sort of hiding over there in the right hand corner. I'm waiting for them to start moving around and looking cool, but I took my sharks out of quarantine, and I now have 6 Bala Sharks in this tank. So, a little discussion about that because they are very premature from quarantine. I'm willing to take the risk. I thought about it, and I'm not going to lie, a lot of this is just my childlike excitement and enthusiasm. I want them in the tank, and so I'm kind of looking for excuses to get them in there. I readily admitted that it would have been far easier to simply take a net and scoop out the baby guppies if I really needed a solution. So I'll admit I'm kind of using that as my excuse to go ahead and put the Bala Sharks in this tank early. They were always intended to go in this tank. I bought them with the idea of putting them in this tank. So that's not a spur-of-the-moment decision, but I did decide today to remove them from quarantine and put them in the tank. Now, the reason I say I'm not too worried about it is because while there are other things you can bring home from the pet store with your fish, parasites, gill flukes, internal parasites, by and large, what we bring home from the fish store, if you're going to have issues, is going to be ick. And ick is something that after 10 days of being in quarantine, if any of these sharks had it, I would have seen it. So we're probably in the clear with ick. The only monkey wrench, I'll say, that thrown into the works is the fact that I just put a gourami and 6 neons in the tank. So neons are notorious for bringing ick home. I've actually brought ick home on neons once myself. And with them being in the tank and only being in there for a few days, there is a chance that these sharks were exposed to ick since they've been in my quarantine tank. You know, if I brought ick home on the fish that are in there now, then yes, these sharks may have been contaminated or may have been infected with ick. However, it's pretty unlikely. I know a lot of you watching don't even have a quarantine tank, and you've just thrown the dice and gambled every time you've brought fish home, and most of the time you do okay. I've done it plenty of times. I didn't start using a quarantine tank for the first several years I kept fish, and in all the years I've kept fish and all the hundreds of fish I've brought home, I've brought ick home twice. So I'm just not that worried about it. I'm probably in the clear. Worst case scenario, if I do get an outbreak of ick in this tank, it's just ick. It's not a big deal, provided you catch it in time. If you don't notice it and it gets really bad, in this tank I have a lot of bottom-dwelling fish, so they will be the first ones to suffer from it. So I will have to keep my close eye on the tank for another couple of weeks. Just but knowing the life cycle of ick, if it's in the tank, I will see signs of ick on these bottom-dwelling fish within a week. And if I don't, we're in the clear for ick. Again, that's no guarantee that I didn't bring something else home, but I think the chances of that are pretty slim, so I'm just not going to worry about it. I was just excited to get these sharks here in the Gourami tank. So hopefully over time, I know they're a skittish fish by nature, but over time they might get a little more used to being in the tank. They might get a little more outgoing. Even in the quarantine tank, they were already starting to come out and respond to feeding time. So I don't think it'll take too long before they get much more comfortable in this tank and we start seeing those sharks cruising around, and they're going to look fantastic. We should also see the numbers of little Guppy Fry swimming around start to dwindle, because I do believe the sharks will start working on them. They've got really big mouths for being such small, pointy little fish. So there you go. There's my Gourami tank. We did a bunch of stuff to it today. Not a lot of important stuff, but it did get some new inhabitants, and that's a pretty big deal. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to watch these sharks grow up or find out what's going to go on. I am aware that they get really big, so we can talk about that later. I do have options, but that's way down the road. They're tiny little things right now, and we don't have anything to worry about, at least for a couple of years. And then I've got other tanks they can move to and other options as well. So again, make sure you're subscribed, and that way you'll get to watch them grow up and see how awesome they look as they fill in this tank. And don't forget, this is my Gourami tank. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you real soon in the next one.